Hello and welcome back to Knights of the Podcast, the show where we talk about, of course, the greatest story of all time, that is Battlestar Galactica. Oh, sorry, I mean Star Wars, the best franchise ever made. I'm your host, as always, Chris Skywalker Dohmen. Here with me tonight, I've got, returning once again, Evan McGregor, Evan DeGraff. How's it going, man?
I'm in a new setting right now. This is what happens when you kind of have to move different locations from time to time. So if you hear any rambunctiousness, it's not me.
For once. And making his debut on Knights of the Podcast, Chris Clark. Now, given your affinity for a certain character, should I just call you Clark-gulla the Hutt, or what? Do you have a Star Wars name you like to use?
How about that? Just Clark-gulla the Hutt.
Clark-gulla the Hutt.
Clark-gulla the Hutt.
I like that. I like that. Yeah,
this is gonna be fun.
This is gonna be a very fun episode. Thank you guys for joining me on today's episode. We have a lot of cool stuff to get to. There has been a lot happening now with we are now 2 weeks away from The Last Jedi hitting theaters, and let's get started with the first story. There was a little featurette that dropped, basically kind of showing us fans the process of training for all the actors that they go through. Like, we sat down with Adam Driver and his process, with Daisy Ridley and her process, Gwendolyn Christie, what her workout was like in that armor that we're gonna see in the film when she has her inevitable confrontation with Finn, and I just can't wait. Clark, you saw that featurette. What are your thoughts, man?
It looks awesome. They're really upping the action in this movie, and everybody looks like they're going to have such a strong blast. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun, and it looks like Daisy Ridley is really working herself to the limit for this movie. She's really, really involved physically with this movie, and it's going to hopefully ascertain to the actual film itself and make it look even more legit than Force Awakens.
Definitely. I mean, the action does look like it has now stepped up even more so than Force Awakens, which I didn't know if that was possible, but it looks like that is what's going to happen. Evan, what was some of your takeaway from this featurette here?
I'm surprised that Gwendolyn Christie's one in the suit. I don't know why she is, but good on her for wanting to do it. It shows initiative, shows that the actors are interested. John Boyega really was forthfronting about him doing the stunts. Adam Driver, you saw, put it all in his and Gracious. Daisy Ridley is looking like she's having tons of fun, and that's just what's important about it. Making movies that are supposed to be fun. Don't forget that.
Well, yeah, no, we gathered from the trailer this is going to be a very dark and serious film, but as long as the actors are still having a good time with it, I think that's going to really show off in the performance and in the final product itself. And one other thing, I do want to ask of you guys: Does this excite you for how big some of these action sequences are going to be? You think? Does it how exciting does that come out across to you?
I think so, because a lot of it is training, but I don't think necessarily the big ones, but rather than the one-on-one duels that we're going to see. The big action set pieces are always going to be the spaceships and the things like that. But it's gonna be those moments that we see in the back and forth between two characters, which I think are gonna be the ones that are really meaningful to the story.
Clark, wrap up this one.
Yeah. Well, what I feel like this is, as I said, I feel like this is just proving that this new movie is just gonna have so many great, probably the best action sequences of the entire saga, and the preparation that they're doing is just going to make it look more legit. It just makes you pumped for what we're going to see for this upcoming film, and I just can't wait to see what the blocking and choreography of these fight sequences are going to be.
Definitely. I mean, if this this could so far it's looking like it could top Revenge of the Sith, which I will still argue is the one with the best choreography of the films. But we'll move on to the next story, which is. Mm-hmm. There's now been a Han Solo teaser poster, which, granted, it's not much. It's just Solo, a Star Wars story. However, this is at least again, for me, this is like the very first step of them actually trying to now promote this movie, which has been through hell and back. But Evan, I'll go with you first on this one. Does it seem like it's too little, too late, or do you think this is the right approach for starting the market?
For a teaser poster, it's a little late. We should probably be getting some character posters, I would argue, by now. However, here's the thing. I think we're going to be getting a trailer come Infinity War. I think I think we're getting a trailer come Last Jedi, paired with the Infinity War trailer.
Interesting.
Look, it comes out in May. 5 months for a Star Wars movie to promote, you need a trailer soon. And because they didn't release one during Celebration, or because they didn't release one earlier, it's going to come with the Star Wars movie. That's how they're going to promote it. So I would say that December release date, we're getting this solo trailer.
See, now, I would be inclined to agree with that. However, I think because of the production, I almost might say that they might hold off at this point till Super Bowl, but we'll have to see where they go with that. Clark.
Why? Wait, quick question. Why would they waste, what, $10 million was it now to put a trailer on the Super Bowl? That's the thing I struggle with, especially for a Han Solo movie like this, the thing that you can't put way too much money into. I think that might be a waste of money, where The Last Jedi is an easy chance to market your trailer for the Solo movie.
Potentially, but lest we forget, Jungle Book had its first full trailer dropped during the Super Bowl, and it was released in June. So it's not too different here, because it's only maybe a couple weeks difference from the time of then to the time of Han Solo. So there is the potential. It's a risky move. I'm not going to say it's not, but there's something to be said about the way they're trying to do it, where they're just trying to salvage what they can, so they can still make this a great film and still make it a profitable film. But Clark, I will take it to you now. Do you think it's a little too late, or do you want more?
Okay, this is the thing. This is the same logo that was released like 2 or 3 months ago, when they were showing the badges that the people on set were wearing, and it's just that plastered on a poster with a black screen. What does this do for us? It doesn't give us anything new. This is a movie that comes out in 5 months that I'm really looking forward to a lot and hoping it's good. But the fact they haven't given us any character posters, any screenshots have been released, it just makes us feel a little bit more concerned, if that makes sense. And I want them to just be straight up. Is it getting delayed? Because that's how it's coming off. Because this teaser poster just does nothing for me, and I wish that we had something better to talk to than just a black screen with a logo on it that we've seen a billion times. Right. That's my take.
Well, no, I actually agree with that. I agree with that. However, this does show me one very crucial thing, that the movie's on schedule, that this movie is going to be released on May 25th, 2018. That's what this does show me. So, yes, and just like you guys, I wish that we already had a trailer. I wish that we already had character posters, but I'm taking what I can get with a grain of salt, and I'm looking at this as glass half full. So this just shows me that we're going to get the film on time, which that's good. Mm-hmm. So it just shows that Disney and Lucasfilm are willing to see where they screwed up with the filmmaking, but they're willing to make up for those mistakes. And now I want to get on now. And speaking of images, though, but this time I'm very happy about this one. We finally get a full image of Benicio del Toro. Empire Magazine sat down for an interview with him, and we got a full image of what his character DJ looks like. I mean, you take one look at him. Sadly, it simultaneously dispels a couple of fan theories, I think, but it also brings up a couple more theories that have been brought up in conversation beforehand. Evan, as a fan of Rebels, are you still on board the DJ might be Ezra theory?
I don't know what I'm aboard with Benicio del Toro's character. Here's my thing. One, I really don't want to know his character because he's the only thing that I know zero about. That's the only picture I saw. I chose not to read the interview, and also I want to know during the Jimmy Kimmel press thing that he did for them, he was not there. So I think they're doing their best to keep him a secret, and everything that he is just kind of silenced. And I want to do that as a fan. The image looks cool, but Ezra Miller, I should said Ezra Miller. Ezra from Rebels.
Bridger, yeah.
Bridger. Sorry, I don't know. I want to go into it blind, and if it is, that will be a huge shock and a very big nod to Rebels fans, which I think could be important because the Rebel viewers are diehards. They love that show. So who knows? Who really knows?
And that would be you and me, even though I'm still not caught up on season 4. Sorry.
Wow, lame.
I know. It's just I've hardly had the time. Although, funny enough, after we're done recording this, I actually might have an hour or two to spare to get caught up a little bit. Clark, are you a fan of Rebels, and do you subscribe to the DJ's Ezra theories?
I have not seen any Rebels out. The last episode I saw was when those 2 Imperial officers get beheaded in front of Moff Tarkin. But yeah, it's a good one, and it's the last one I saw. Not that I didn't like the show; it's that I haven't really gone back to it. I love Clone Wars. That show was amazing, and I never thought Rebels lived up to Clone Wars. It was still solid, but I got bored with it. But I'll give it a second try someday.
Question.
But, yeah.
How do you get bored with Rebels, but you don't get bored with Clone Wars? We'll move on. Sorry.
It's 2 different shows. They're completely different. Anyway, they have Star Wars in the title. Anyway, though, yeah. But look, Benicio del Toro, he's on this lounge thing. He looks pretty chill. He looks like he could be a bounty hunter. He could be some sort of mercenary sent to kill Rey for all we know. Maybe he's the reincarnation of Jabba the Hutt. We have no idea who he is. But if they were smart, like if they really wanted to cash in on Rebels, they would make him Ezra Miller. He looks like how he would be if he was Bridger. And he's also the Flash, by the way. No, but look. He would I wouldn't be opposed to them linking Rebels with the movies and the saga, because we never got that good link between Clone Wars and the actual trilogy, the prequel trilogy, just because that happened after it, and we never had there was certain continuity in the Clone Wars that happened in the Clone Wars after the prequel trilogy was over.
Well, there was continuity from the Clone Wars micro series, but not the 3D Clone Wars show.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more continuity with the 3D Clone Wars show pop into something too. Hopefully down the line we might see an Ahsoka movie. But for right now, if this guy was Ezra, it would be amazing, and he looks like he could be Ezra. But chances are it's never what we expect. Disney's smarter than that.
I was saying that's the beauty of Star Wars, is that it's never what we expect. I mean, take a look at Luke's lineage. In 1980, did anybody see that coming? Hell no. So
and if he was Ezra, it would shrink the universe.
Ooh, yeah. I don't think it would.
And that goes against their brand.
I don't.
If
think
you watched Rebels, it wouldn't. If you actually watched Rebels, it wouldn't. There's so much behind Ezra's backstory that we haven't known, and so much in the future with Ezra's story and his trail, because I think Kanan's going to be dead, and Ezra's going to have to teach himself all these years. Shrinking the universe, I think, is the wrong assessment there. I think, if anything, if he starts explaining some things in his history, then that's actually expanding the universe.
A little bit.
It's expanding the universe with one character, but you're again focusing on the character from a series that you've been spending time with. Why not focus on that in the actual show and leave this guy to be someone unique that you can get more extended universe material in the comics from?
Fair enough.
Because if this was Ezra, you don't get that material. But yeah, go for it, Chris.
Because I'll counter both of you, and I'll say that it would expand the universe, but it would shrink the character. I think that would be the correct way to phrase that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well,
we have differing opinions.
A couple quotes actually. There was a quote that Benicio actually said that really kind of draws a little attention to you, where he describes DJ as like a knife. If you grab him by the blade, he'll cut you. If you grab him by the handle, he can be very, very useful. And given that, because all we know about DJ is that, he runs the Canto Bight Casino, and he's a slicer or a hacker in the Star Wars universe. So, I think that actually does say a lot about what we can expect from him. Is that maybe someone tries to grab him by the blade and they get cut, and then someone tries to grab him by the handle and he winds up, proving his loyalty. So
it's going to be an Empire. It's going to be an Empire and Resistance thing. Yeah, it's going to be an Empire Resistance thing.
Actually,
I know for damn sure.
Okay, here's my only counter to that, because I know that Laura Dern's character has something to do with the Canto Bight Casino as well. So maybe it's possible that she tries to grab him by the blade, but it's Finn and Rose who grab him by the handle.
Who knows?
Who knows? And either way, I can't wait to see what a prestigious actor like Benicio can bring to Star Wars, because I'm not gonna lie, I've wanted this guy in this franchise forever. So we'll just have to see. Final story in the world of Star Wars news. Okay. As we all know, The Last Jedi is currently slated to be the longest Star Wars film to date, beating out Attack of the Clones at a whopping 150 minutes, 2 hours 30. Turns out it was supposed to be even longer. According to Rian Johnson, the original cut was over 3 hours in length. Now, obviously, that's just from, getting the basic story out and having a few other details. But, Evan, do you think that, with it being as long as it is already, do you think a longer film would have hurt the film?
Yes. And Rian Johnson knew that. He said it in the interview with Collider with Steve Frosty, that very specifically, when he saw the 3-hour film, he said it was very bulky. Things needed to be cut. Some of my favorite scenes had to go due to X, Y, and Z, and it hurt the pacing of the film. There's not going to be an extended cut. We'll get deleted scenes of it, but there's literally zero purpose. I think he said that there's a 3-hour cut to it because of the editing process. Obviously, you have your assembly cut. Then you have your, here's another shortened one, and then again and again until you have all the right cuts. And I think that's just the nature of the beast, really. And that's just the film process. So it makes sense. It's something that's really not unexpected, something that just happens in the film process. So we're not going to get an extended cut, but I'm interested in the deleted scenes because apparently he really liked them.
I would say, and Clark, as a big fan of DVDs and deleted scenes, like, are you looking forward to seeing those after you see the movie, or do you secretly wish they were included?
Okay. Here's two things. A, we're never going to get an extended cut of a Star Wars film because of how much continuity matters to that franchise, to the mainstream audience.
We're going to get one for Solo.
Okay, let me finish my thought, though, is that, look, with the assembly cut, you have the assembly cut. His assembly cut was obviously 3 hours long. It probably was a cut they showed to test audiences, and that's the test audience cut. Maybe they cut a little out of that. And probably with the audience, they felt like that's where they got the idea that maybe some scenes lagged and stuff, and then they make the final cut off of that. What I feel like, though, for DVD-wise, J.J. Abrams kind of, what they did for Force Awakens, I do not want them to do for Last Jedi, because they kind of kept you.
They do that.
Yeah, they kept you from like half of the great deleted scenes just to resell you the movie like a year later with a special edition, not dissimilar to DLC in video games these days, which I hate. So it's kind of like, as long as we get all those meaty, good deleted scenes that he loves on the DVD when it first comes out, I'm satisfied. If we end up getting like 1 or 2 deleted scenes that equate to like 10 minutes long, okay, they're just making us buy a DVD and making us wait for a new special edition a year later just to get more money. And, I love long movies. I love seeing stuff that's been cut. It fascinates me. But I also, since I am an editor, I understand that you need to cut to rhythm. And rhythm does not always equate to your love of a scene. If your love of a scene doesn't equate to the rhythm of the movie, you have to cut it. Because if you do not cut it, your movie gets ruined. Editing is 98% of a movie. The other 2% is everything else. The way your audience experiences the movie is what matters. How you made it, that's on you. But how the audience perceived it, that's on them. And there are millions of people who are going to watch this movie. So we made a right call.
No, and I completely agree. Like,
Yeah.
you know, as a Star Wars nerd, of course, I would have loved to have seen the full cut. You know, if I could somehow get my hands on that, just to watch it for 3 hours, and would I be happy? Of course I would. Shit, I would have loved to have seen the alleged 4-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith that George Lucas was trying to work with, and you know, but. It's one of those things where it's like, obviously, as a filmmaker, you have to make a lot of painful cuts when you're doing editing. And shit, Clark, as a filmmaker yourself, you know all about that.
110%. There's things in my movie I wish I did cut because I was too attached to stuff. Learned my lessons.
Well, and obviously with Johnson, we can trust that every single choice that he made will eventually pay off. So that ought to wrap it up for this news segment, which. Some good stuff and some good speculation, some stuff that I am just 2 weeks. Can it come sooner, please? I've got my movie pass. I'm going to be watching it like every day, and I'm not going to care one iota. But now we're going to move on to the history lesson. This is essentially the time where everything that, if there's a big event that happened this week in Star Wars, I'm going to talk about it, and holy crap, it is a stacked week. This first week in December, a hell of a lot happened. First things first, one of the best Star Wars games of all time dropped. That is Rogue Squadron for the N64 and PC, dropped this week back in 1997. Wow. Where has the time gone? Clark, please tell me that you have at least a little bit of experience with this game.
I have a lot of experience with this game, and actually this came out. It came out because this came out like when back in '97 was the golden age of Nintendo. You had Banjo-Kazooie, Mario Kart 64. The N64 was on a high. GoldenEye, Mario Party was just starting, and you had. I love the old 3D games from that era, and Rogue Squadron was up there. And actually, there was a game that came out before a certain movie came out called Episode 1 Pod Racer, which was bundled with this game. I think it came out a year later, but it was bundled with this game. And that's how I was introduced to both of them. I regrettably haven't played Rogue Squadron that much, but from what I remember, it's kind of what kind of reinvigorated the whole mentality that Star Wars is a gaming that Star Wars is a property that you can make good games off of. Now, most movie properties don't get good games. Star Wars has not had that problem in the slightest.
Oh my
God! I
no.
think it's the only movie franchise that has had a consistent gaming quality over the years, and Rogue Squadron was one of them. But I love Pod Racer, which when we get to that anniversary down the line, that movie, that game is fantastic. Shadows of the Empire came out that year too. It was a stacked year for gaming in general, and Rogue Squadron pretty much hit the ground running. It's a great game.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, Evan, yeah. I realize this game came out before you were born, but have you at least heard of the Rogue Squadron series and its possible influence on the Star Wars games?
I've heard of it, and that's it. I have nothing else to say.
Fair enough. Oh dear God.
Family game night one night.
Oh hell yeah, family game night one night. I'm in love with this game. I love this series. This is probably my number 9 favorite Star Wars game of all time. Mostly because the campaign where you play as Luke Skywalker through a bunch of missions between episodes 4 and 5 in the old Legends universe, sadly, because you met a lot of great characters. You met Kason Moore, who was this Imperial pilot who defected. You met Moff Searden, who was this leftover Imperial governor who just was a freaking madman, and you went to all kinds of different planets. Like
back in '97 is when the special editions came out, and back then you would watch episode 4 on VHS. Then you would go to your N64 and play Rogue Squadron. And then you would watch episode 5, the special edition on the VHS, then play Shadows of the Empire on your N64, and then watch Jedi. It was a great time.
Oh my god, it was an amazing time.
Yep.
And it also, like I said, you also actually got to know some of these new characters. Like, this is the game where you got to meet Dak and Wedge and again, Kason Moore, who, she was one of my favorite pilots. But sadly, she's no longer canon because Disney, I love you, but man, that still hurts. And next story in the history lesson. Leigh Brackett, a screenwriter known for her work on The Big Sleep with Humphrey Bogart and Rio Bravo with John Wayne, the Duke himself. But Star Wars fans would know her as the woman who did the official first draft of The Empire Strikes Back before sadly passing away in 1978. Now, you can actually read her script, her screenplay, her treatment for The Empire Strikes Back at one of the public libraries held in Arizona. Which yes, I'll be going to there someday, and I'm gonna read what the difference was between Kasdan's final draft and her first draft, because by all accounts, there's not much difference. All the same beats are there. It's just that she had a little bit more of a sci-fi imagination that George didn't necessarily agree with. But I'm glad to see that she still gets the credit. She still gets the recognition to this day. Evan, as someone who does have appreciation for more historical things in film, like, would you ever be interested in looking up her draft of the script and seeing the difference between that and what we got on screen?
Of course. And look, the matter of fact is she wrote a draft for The Empire Strikes Back, one of the most influential films in film history, one of the best films in film history. So that's just hats off to her. And the fact that she's a woman and in that time and period, and she did that's amazing all in its own. So just a few things to say hats off to her and happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday, Leigh. And sadly, we lost you way too soon, because I would have loved to have seen her try to tackle Return of the Jedi or the prequels and see what she could have brought to that table, because, oh, man. Ooh, indeed. Clark, do you have any thoughts towards Mrs. Brackett?
Well, yeah, it's great that she's getting the recognition. I mean, when I watched, because I did, she's one of the gapping holes in the what's that huge 3-hour documentary on the trilogy?
Empire Dreams.
Empire Dreams. They kind of gloss over her very briefly, and they kind of they only mention her once, and I feel like this is always the part of the story that fascinates me. What is the first draft of your favorite movie like compared to what the final version is? For example, King Kong. The first draft of the movie had Kong escaping Madison Square Garden, climbing the Empire State Building, getting struck by lightning and a giant blimp, and falling down. You have this first draft of what many consider to be the greatest sci-fi movie ever made. Empire is a fantastic movie, and I just am really curious what her draft is about. It's like, we can only see it in a library. Damn it, nobody can scan it and put it online for us to read. It sucks. It really sucks. But happy birthday to her. She made one of the greatest movies ever made to some people, and she did it, and it got on the first draft, if there were as little changes as they say there were, then she's a godsend, and we lost her too soon, as you said.
Definitely. And you know what? How about this? Maybe sometime I'll pay for a trip for some of us to just go to Arizona and read that script. And
LOL. Or you
Hey,
can live stream it.
Well, I was about to say, well, exactly, and we'll meet up with our buddies over at Late to the Party and all the belts, and we'll all just get together. So,
Do it.
definitely. All right, next piece. Going back to video games. Like, there's been a lot of games that came out this week. Next up is a game that, God, it had all the promise in the world. Had all the promise. But the problem is, when you're following up what is hailed as the greatest Star Wars game of all time, for some people, you're following up Knights of the Old Republic with Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, dropped this week on Xbox and PC. Dirty little secret, I haven't finished it. I know the entire story, front to back, but I have not actually finished playing the game.
Have you finished episode 2 of your script yet as well? I guess you might have problems with sequels.
I have.
Oh, you did? Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, I'm actually pretty deep in episode 3. And sadly, we never got an official episode 3 of Knights of the Old Republic. So Clark, again, as kind of the other gamer besides me in this group, do you have any familiarity with Knights of the Old Republic 2?
All I heard was that it sucked donkey balls. Look. I from what you played on the stream like 2 weeks ago, it looked like a great game for the GameCube, and in that era, that 2003 era, it looked great. I don't know what exactly they did to screw up the gameplay, but apparently it was something huge and catastrophic that after that, the franchise dropped the whole Knights title and just called it the Old Republic and turned it into a PC exclusive game. And I don't know. Have you?
I was gonna say now I can explain that.
Yeah.
So what happened was after Knights 1 dropped in 2003, LucasArts basically was like, "Oh my God, this game is huge. We have to get the next one out now." So they basically pushed Obsidian and Activision to get the next one dropped as soon as humanly possible. So sadly, they had to leave a few things out. Now, luckily, the restored content mod is out there. It puts in everything that was left out of the original draft, because essentially it was just an unfinished game. Now people can go back and play it, and by my understanding, with a little bit of time, it is viewed a little more fondly because of the characters, but people still have problems with the story, and sadly, that's where I also...
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, they put out an unfinished game and took money from people and gave people an unfinished game, which is wrong, A, and B, if a mod is better than an official $50 release price tag, you're doing something wrong. And they apparently corrected it in the future with the Old Republic games that I hear are hugely critically acclaimed and everybody loves them. So they learned their lesson, but that's strange that a mod is better than the official release.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of funny because Battlefront 1 had that sort of problem back in 2015. But, Evan, you're hearing about this kind of stuff. Like, do you think it was wrong for LucasArts to kind of push that?
I'm not surprised. That's it. I'm just not surprised at all. To be honest, I'm not surprised. Money's money.
Money is money, sadly. And, well, actually, it's kind of funny that you say that because, yeah, in the same year, LucasArts dropped two of the biggest Star Wars games of all time, which is Jedi Academy and Knights of the Old Republic. Which one got the series continuation? Knights, funny enough, not Jedi Academy.
What year was that?
2003. And then Knights 2 came out in 2004. Now, the other problem that a lot of people had with it was there was barely a sense of continuity from the first game to the second game, just because it was a brand new protagonist. The old protagonist from the first game was nowhere to be found, and that's because they explained it later on, and it was bullshit, but I'll get to that in a second. As I segue into the final piece of the history lesson, which is, speaking of the Old Republic, Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMORPG, which is still going to this day, dropped back in 2011. When it first weekend it hit, 250 million people subscribed to it. It was one of the. If I'm not mistaken, it still is the single largest opening for an MMORPG of all time.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And as I said before, they learned their lesson from the mishap with Knights of the Old Republic 2. Dropped the Knights title, made it that, and now they're really successful. So I still wish they called it Knights of the Old Republic. It has a ring to it.
It does have a little bit of a ring to it, but you know, and to be fair, sadly, I never was able to get around to actually like playing it. Like I had a buddy who had it, so I sort of played a little bit through that, but I just more focused on the stories available. And when I found out what happened to my beloved character from Knights 1, my dear HK-47, and how they screwed him over, I said, nope, never playing this game. Ever.
Fun fact, the last Old Republic game made by LucasArts before the Disney acquisition was a DLC story called Rise of the Hutt Cartel, which is hilarious. And it has a Jabba ancestor with a hook for an arm. It's ridiculous looking.
As I was saying, this sounds like nothing that would necessarily interest you, huh, Evan?
Nope.
No.
Not a fan of the MMOs, are you?
Not a fan of video games, really.
Unless it's FIFA and you can just get angry at it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. He likes
Thank you.
talking while people play video games, though. It's fun.
Yeah. I'm the biggest distraction you will ever have.
That's not a lie.
That's not a lie. That's complete truth right there.
That's truth.
Well, so that was our history lesson. Like I said, a lot of big stuff happened this week, and I hope we can have another big stacked lesson like that. So we're going to proceed on to the final part of the show, the best part of the show, in my opinion. Sadly, no guests this week. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to work on that. But let's proceed to the final part once more with feeling.
With feeling.
How this segment works is we take a look at a Star Wars game, TV show, book, comic, or a piece of the movies, and we will reenact a scene from it. We'll do it one time serious and one time with a gimmick. Now, Clark has a bit of a problem, in my opinion. He loves this little movie called Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and look,
It's my second favorite Star Wars movie.
and therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
dude,
Phantom
you know I
Menace
love
is my third. My ranking is so different from everybody at Take 3. It is like completely polar opposite. Empire ranks like 5th for me. All the Jabba movies are the top 4.
Yep. But hey, we still love him and no judgment. But he actually selected a scene that I actually thought was kind of interesting. You know, while this character would eventually become one of the best in Star Wars history.
Because they're rebels. Let's make that clear.
Because of Rebels and because of the latter half of Clone Wars, which you still have yet to watch, Evan, and because of the Ahsoka novel, of course, Ahsoka Tano. We'll be doing her first scene ever when she meets Obi-Wan and Anakin, fresh off of the Battle of Christophsis. So, and I think Clark, you and I both agreed instantly that Evan needs to be Ahsoka, and that you are Anakin and I'm Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
All right, this will be interesting. Let's have some fun.
Evan, get into character.
Whew. Time to break out the Ewan McGregor, or try to go for more James Arnold Taylor. Our cruiser must be back.
Which means we'll be able to get our reinforcements.
Looks like our problems are solved. Fresh troops, new supplies, and it looks like they brought my new Padawan with.
Do you really think it's a good idea to bring a Padawan into all of this?
I spoke to Master Yoda about it. You should put in a request for one.
No, thank you. No thanks.
Anakin, teaching is a privilege, and it's a Jedi's responsibility to help teach the next generation.
A Padawan would just slow me down.
A youngling
And who are you supposed to be?
I'm Ahsoka. Master Yoda sent me. I was told to tell you both that I must get back to the Jedi Temple immediately. There's an emergency.
I don't know if you've noticed, but we're in a bit of an emergency right here.
Yes, our communications have been a bit unreliable, but we've been calling for help.
Master Yoda hadn't heard from you, so he sent me here to deliver the message.
Are you kidding me? Sigh. Oh, great. They don't even know we're in trouble.
Well, I guess we'll have to hold out a little longer.
Up. Line
Oh,
up that.
Maybe you could relay a signal through the cruiser that just dropped me off.
Well, I guess we'll have to hold out a little bit longer.
My apologies, young one. It's time for a proper introduction.
I'm the new Padawan. That's Evan.
I'm the new Padawan learner. I'm Ahsoka Tano.
I am Obi-Wan Kenobi, your new master.
I'm at your service, Master Kenobi, but I'm afraid I've actually been assigned to Master Skywalker.
What? No. That must be some mistake. He's the one who wanted a Padawan.
Master Yoda was very specific. I'm assigned to Anakin Skywalker. He is to supervise my Jedi training.
But that doesn't make any sense.
We'll have to sort this out later. It won't be long before those droids figure out a way around our cannons.
I'll check on Rex in the lookout post.
Better take her with you.
You ready? To save Jabba's son.
Oh, God.
This is going to be fun.
I'll admit, that actually wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. That was pretty good.
I can't do an Ahsoka voice.
Ahsoka just, it came out natural, Evan.
It came out natural. But I think it's time to do that once more. With feeling.
Oh, goodness.
So, what kind of gimmick do we have in mind, gentlemen?
Let's just say that there's some pre-pro stuff that we talked about. The gimmick will come. The gimmick will come. Gimmick, the come will.
Oh, no! All right, so Evan is doing Yoda. Clark.
I'm going to keep mine a surprise.
Oh, dude. Oh, fine. Ooh.
You told us to think of ours beforehand, and now you're the one who's making us wait. I see how it is.
No. I was just thinking because I'm trying to get my voice ready for it because it's gonna take a little bit out of me. But when all right.
Go for it whenever you're ready.
Cool. Hi, I'm Scott Mance. Our cruiser must be back.
Good. Well, means that we'll be able to our extension. Good.
It looks like our problems are solved. Fresh troops, new supplies, and it looks like they brought my new Roka with.
Do you really look? It's a good thing that Gluck a pinata into all this. Gluck.
Well, I spoke to the little green guy about it. You should put in a request for one.
Gluck, fuck you. Gluck.
Oh, God. Listen, Goofy, teaching is a privilege. And it's a schmodown's responsibility to throw questions at the next generation.
Gluck, I want to pound the pinata. I wouldn't slow down. Gluck.
Who's the little green guy?
And who are you supposed to be, Gluck?
I'm Ahsoka. I sent myself. I was told to tell you both that you must get back to the Jedi Temple immediately. An emergency there is.
I don't know what do we do. I don't know if you noticed. but we're in a bit of an emergency. That's a better one.
Well, yeah. Our communications have been a bit unreliable, but I've been calling for Roka.
Master Yoda hadn't heard from you. Oh, that's Evan. Fuck.
Myself, I haven't heard in a while. The message I sent myself.
Gluck. Hashtag sigh. Gluck. Oh, great. They don't know we're in trouble. Gluck. Gluck.
The relay signal from the cruiser that just dropped me off. You can relay.
Well, I guess I'll have to hold out a little bit. Glucker.
Well,
Gluck.
I'm sorry, young one. It's time for a proper introduction.
Yoda, Master. I am your new learner. Learner I am.
I am Obi-Wan Kenobi, not Captain Kirk, your new master.
Master Kenobi, your service I am at. Master Skywalker, I am afraid to be assigned.
Gluck. No, hell no, bitch. No. Gluck. No. No. Ain't no mountain high. No. There ain't no Gluck. It's a mistake. Gluck. He's the one who wanted to be a potato. Oh, Gluck.
Myself, I was specific to. Myself assigned. Master Skywalker. Jedi training to supervise. He must.
Gluck, that don't make no sense, bitch. No sense. Gluck.
Well, we'll have to sort this out later. It won't be long before Christian and Mark figure out a way around our cannons.
I'll check Rex out. I mean,
better take her with you. Oh my God! All right. Now, anybody who tells Scott Mance this, I want you to know, Scott, I love everything that you do, man. You are an amazing human being, and nothing was meant to be personal, but I am literally crying from laughter. That was beautiful.
I don't know what we just witnessed.
I don't know what just happened either, but I'm pretty sure we can't top that for the show, so we're just gonna wrap it up now. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking through that fiasco. Evan, where can the good folks find you online?
Evan DeGraff 15. Twitter, you can find me. Listen to myself on R2 Cents. Jacob London with.
Not quite how that works, but okay.
That's how
Clark,
that works.
where can the good folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisClark8788. Those numbers mean not a damn thing. You can find me here on Take 3 hosting Suddenly Soundtracks, a show based on movie musicals where we dissect a movie solely based on the soundtrack that it provides. Every Friday or Saturday night, whatever we decide. Family game night, just a lot of disaster and a lot of fun. Or you can find me on YouTube at No Man's Land Entertainment. Bada bing, bada boom.
All right, you guys can find me on Twitter and my band Last Shot Redemption at LSAR Band MN. You guys can follow Take Two Productions on Twitter and Instagram at Take Two Trivia. You guys can follow the Worldwide Movie Games Network on Twitter at WWMGN Take 3. And you can always find me just, doing random stuff here on the channel. But then you can also find me on Letterboxd and Stardust at Chris Take 3. Guys, thank you once again for watching, and may the Force be with you always.